What I like about this matchup is frequently you'll see the Storm player try to take the game long, especially post-sideboard once they get pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, pieces of the puzzle is a big deal, not only in the sense that it usually draws you 2 cards, but it also can stock up your graveyard for those big Past in Flames.
Sure. Both players keeping on 6. So let's go. Caleb starting off with Shivan Reef. Yeah, the basic idea is that Caleb just tries to make land drops. Well,
seems like we are not checking our fundamental boxes as no second land for Scherer.
Yeah, I was going to say, he tries to make land drops, and then eventually Past in Flames becomes a 1-card combo. He missed his second land. Now, he found it on turn 3. But when he's trying to build up to 6 or 7 lands, that's rough either way.
Right. In particular, in matchups like this, where Sukenik has access to Logic Knots, that 1 mana leak, you want to get in a situation where you can cast 2 spells that can start a chain on the same turn. That's a really good spot to be in, and missing your land drops is going to make that impossible.
Yeah, now of note, sometimes we've been seeing some Storm players move Empty the Warrens into the main deck to try to just find that they're burning in a lot of matchups. Caleb has not done that this game. He just has 3 Grape Shots and then those creatures as the win conditions for game 1.
It would be a very un-Caleb thing to do.
That's true.
I think he actually prefers the complex Grape Shot turns to the easy Gifts Ungiven Past in Flames ones.
For the second turn in a row, Caleb does find a land, so he's managed to keep pace after that stumble.
Yeah, Caleb likes the kind of games where you cast Manamorphose from a position of just having lands and figure it out from there.
Field of Ruin from Jonathan, and he will go for Search for Azcanta. Caleb is all the way down to just 1 copy of Remand in his deck at this point.
He has a split on 1 Remand and 1 Unsubstantiate.
Yeah. He has a Repeal, which could be used on this at some point. I've seen that with a lot of Storm players, just kind of talking about how Remand has steadily gotten worse and worse.
Yeah, there's a good amount of just creature decks in the format. In the Jeskai matchup, you Remand is about it's about as good as it's going to get. But that's only so much of the field.
I say I'm all for it. As someone who likes to make Primeval Titan, they should just keep. Let's get rid of the last one.
Remand can be a pretty important card for things like the Ironworks combo matchup, though you do have speed on your side there.
End step. Pyretic Ritual from Caleb. Leaving up an island suggests he might be trying to set up a Gifts Ungiven.
Yep. Naturally, Sukenik, that's a Ritual Resolve. There'll be a test for the counterspell when he casts the gifts.
Right. Logic Knot and Mana Leak would be the counterspells in mind. There's no... Instead of the main deck negate, Jonathan has gone for the Mana Leak instead. And it looks like Manamorphose going to be the play from Caleb. So while he has some mana floating, might as well filter some of it.
Yeah, without a mana creature, the Manamorphose, they do just kind of cycle.
Yeah, they're fair.
Right. And the Gifts Ungiven, actually being able to resolve, that's kind of a big deal. You do see another ritual floating in Caleb's hand. If you could do something like get a counterspell for a Manamorphose, and then just untap and go for the Gifts Ungiven, maybe even finding a land in the process and just casting it for 4 mana that way, that would be able to sculpt a position for Caleb very effectively.
Caleb started counting Storm here. Now we are on, I believe, we'll confirm what phase of the game we're on, because he wouldn't be counting it on Jonathan's end step.
Yeah, I thought this was an end step thing. I'm not, maybe he's bluffing that he has brought Quicken to the tournament.
Yeah, we're on first main phase of Caleb, actually, so apologies here. Yeah, we went through the draw step, which is why we're counting Storm now.
That's a different situation.
So second Manamorphose does finally draw into the land. It's a basic mountain. Found Past in Flames that previous turn as well. That were the previous one. Here will be Desperate Ritual splicing Desperate Ritual. And Jonathan lets that resolve, so big stack of red mana.
And if the counterspell for Sukenik is just Logic Knot, there's only one card in his graveyard so far.
I think at this point the ruse is over. I don't think Jonathan has a counterspell, and if I was Caleb, I'm not sure I'd respect one anymore.
Right. Yeah, getting that ritual to resolve there.
That was big.
Would not be concerned about a mana leak, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Lodge, not mana leak, they're all off. Caleb up to 7 red.
So these Jeskai decks, they tend to play that one negate, and it might still be worth waiting if that were the counterspell available.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb doesn't know that it's not.
Right.
He goes for Past in Flames here, and if there was a mana leak, you would have mana leaked this.
Right.
So, let's go to work again from Caleb's side. Spell number 7 is that Pyretic Ritual again. And now once you start flashing back Manamorphosis, that's when things get nice. So another Desperate Ritual, spell 8, Caleb up to 4 red mana.
Well, Storm at 8, I'll check that box while we're here.
And spell 9 is the first of 2 Manamorphoses. Finds a Sleight of Hand. So
and we're getting to the territory where just like Grape Shot, Remand, cast the Grape Shot again will be lethal, though Caleb is 1 shy on mana for that at this point in time.
He's going to cast Sleight of Hand. I think what he's like to do is just find a second Grape Shot.
Right. That's the easy way to do it. And he has more Grape Shots than he has Remands.
Yep, so Sleight of Hand shows land, Serum Visions. He still has a chance. So with that Serum Visions, he can go down to 3 mana. Yeah. Serum Visions, find Serum Visions. Scry the top 2. If there's a Grape Shot here, Caleb's still alive. And Electromancer. Boy, he would have liked that earlier. Is this now Caleb has to decide, is it too late for Electromancer to do anything? He's got 3 mana remaining. Can cast a Manamorphose to draw whatever card he scries to the top here. Ooh, there was a Remand there. But he's going to put it on the bottom. It's just too late.
He doesn't have the mana really anymore for that.
Spell 12 is Desperate Ritual.
Yeah, still gets this redraw off that Manamorphose. But he's really just looking for 2 Grape Shots.
Yeah, I don't think he's hoping to Manamorphose naturally into another Grape Shot. He's got 1 card left to do it. Otherwise, he still Grape Shots Jonathan down to, well, we'll see what the end result is. It's going to be low, but it's not going to be everything. I think he's debating casting another card in his hand to try and then Manamorphosing, but he's just going to Manamorphose.
Yeah, I think there was another Serum Visions in the holding, maybe thinking about if there was a way to vision into setting up to getting back to 4 mana with that redraw and also having Grape Shot.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Storm's at 13. So it does mean he can go lower on mana. If now he's only on 1 Grape Shot, he can see just how high he can cast Serum Vision, see how high he can get the first Grape Shot. I don't think he can get it to 19.
Yeah, just casting the Serum Visions, though, that puts us up to 14, and then the Grape Shot is 15. You can probably squeeze another spell in there. So you can put Sukenik down to 3.
I guess we'll see whether or not... now he has to decide whether that extra 1 Grape Shot is worth spending the Serum Visions right away. He has a Noxious Revival. I don't know that matters anymore. Was close to mattering. There was a point, had he drawn that a turn earlier, that would have worked. Here's Serum Visions. He's just a mana short.
Yeah, the Noxious Revival could have played in a way with the cantrips and the Grape Shot to use the same copy for lethal.
Draws Opt. Both bottom. I guess you can Grape Shot your opponent down to 4. He'll Opt, so like down to 3.
Yeah, then if you just have some spells in hand, if your Noxious Revival resolves, you can cast that. You
on the Grape Shot.
Get Grape Shot. That's already 2 spells.
Yeah, it's not too hard to find 3 damage. I mean, at that point, you're just like trying to dodge lightning helixes.
Yeah, there's also a trick to getting the Noxious Rival off through Cryptic Command on following turns.
Sure. So, it does cast Opt, and now we're going to get the Grape Shot. It's not going to be lethal. It is Grape Shot for 16. Sukenik is at 19.
Yeah, there were a lot of looks at this being lethal this turn. Though now, several rituals here have been exiled, including multiple Mana Morphos.
And there's that Lightning Helix. Jonathan back up to 6. And he does have Cryptic Command, so a Fizzle from Caleb. And with Cryptic, it's not clear if Caleb can find the remaining 6 points. It was a big turn, one that could have been a full combo.
Yeah, Caleb would know better than I would the odds of that actually being lethal that turn. It's easy to see, the way it played out. Another Grape Shot would have been lethal, though it was a non-deterministic kill from the start. He had to find some specific things.
Cast Serum Visions. Top card is Baral and a land. See if he wants either of those. No, he does not.
Yeah, that was the kind of combo turn where you wouldn't start unless you were very inexperienced or very experienced.
Right. It was like the entire time he had some combo ready. His deck kept giving him enough to keep going.
Right. And to be fair, the deck does have quite a lot of redraws naturally. That's most of what the deck is. Bunch of 1 blue mana cantrips, mana morphoses. And now Sukenik does look to have access to Logic Knot. And a couple more cards in the graveyard as well. So Caleb has made some land drops, so that Logic Knot could very well matter.
Yeah, well, it looks like Caleb's going to go for an end-step Gifts Ungiven here. It will likely get countered, but he's hoping to tap Jonathan off of interaction when he does it. A mill for Jonathan off that search for Azcanta. Land 6 means he could cast Logic Knot and Cryptic Command here. Pretty big land drop for Jonathan.
Yeah, that's the threshold where the Jeskai deck starts feeling pretty comfortable, being able to safely cast 2 counterspells in the same turn.
Here is Gifts Ungiven, end step by Caleb. We'll see what counterspell Jonathan wants to use. It looks like it's Cryptic Command. Counter draw.
And based off what Sukenik sees here, I do like firing off the Cryptic there. The Logic Knot is very likely to be a hard counter, especially with this 5th card entering the graveyard.
Yeah.
And you can save that for a position where maybe only using 2 mana on your counterspell will be a big deal, whereas right now using 4 of your mana is unlikely to be of consequence.
Simmers from Caleb finds a Grape Shot. And that he does play 3 Grape Shots. So one way, Ryan, I think that Caleb could still get this, is if he just manages to get 2 Grape Shots in his hand somehow and just one turn fire off a bunch of things, 2 Grape Shots, it's fine.
If he finds himself in a position where he just has, 6-card hand, 2 of them are Grape Shots, he's able to fire off some rituals. If Sukenik battles back on the stack, that builds the storm count as well.
Yeah, so if next turn Caleb on his own upkeep Noxious Revivals the other Grape Shot, like Jonathan has to fight there, right? At that point, Storm's already at 1. And if it resolves, he has 2 Grape Shots. So that's a shot for 2, shot for 3, assuming Caleb does nothing else.
Yeah, you definitely can't save your counterspells for the Grape Shot. That's a non-starter.
Bolt at Caleb.
And that Bolt was the 7th card in Sukenik's graveyard. He's making sure he can transform the search for Azcanta, even if he wants to keep the top card of his deck.
Sure.
Something like a Cryptic Command. And with the Azcanta guaranteed transforming, this is mana neutral. He will turn into a land. It doesn't really matter if you tap the Steam Vents. And he does keep the card. And so that worked out pretty great for Sukenik.
Well, the card was Lightning Helix, so of course he'd keep it. With the kind of win Caleb is going for, that is the card he wants to be finding.
Yeah, against something scrappy, the Helix could be quite powerful, especially if Caleb's combo turn just starts with a mana creature. just point the helix there.
Caleb casts Noxious Revival. Down to 12. See what we'll see what he's targeting. Believe it's Grape Shot. He's already actually drawn this turn, though.
Must have some number of cantrips in hand.
Sure.
Not that hard to assemble.
Right. Grape Shot's on top of the deck. Storm's at 1. Sleight of Hand. Storm at 2. Now, if his next 2 plays are just 2 Grape Shots, Jonathan's Lightning Helix actually still keeps him alive.
And from 4 mana, that's pretty likely to be what Scherer's up to. Since Sukenik has a combination of both Logic Knot and Lightning Helix, you want to be mindful about fighting on the stack here just because you're adding Storm for the Grape Shots.
Exactly.
So you have to be certain that the next thing you do is good enough to combat whatever Caleb has for follow-up.
And it looks like he's going to fight over Sleight of Hand. That's because he has it covered with that Helix. I was a little surprised to see this play.
I do like the Logic Knot a good amount because there's already 2 Storm here and Caleb's just getting that Grape Shot here.
Okay, so
and you have the Helix covered for later. You still don't have to use that to contribute to the Storm, and maybe Caleb has another Grape Shot, but you're beating that, and now next turn Caleb's just drawing this Grape Shot for 1 or whatever.
Yeah, Storm's at 3. As the Sleight of Hand is countered. Caleb just says go. And that's got to be a win here for Sukenik. We'll see if he end step 1 to his Kanta. It's a bit of a risk. Will he take it? He will.
I think I have a square for that. Player activates Escanta the Sunken Rune.
I had a card transforming off that, so I'll match you.
Wow, you just have the easy version of my square.
Well, if somehow he got Escanta into play without it transforming, then I don't even know if there's a card that lets you do that. I don't think so.
Oh, I have a counter draw on Cryptic Command too. Let's just check that while we're here.
Oh, delved 5 cards to cast a spell. Like that Logic Knot for 5.
Yeah, that one you tend to see in Modern. That's kind of an amusing data point to me is there's a number of players that feel like Modern will be made better or different if they introduced Counterspell, and Logic Knot is basically Counterspell. The differences are not dramatic.
Yeah. There might be other decks that would play it if it was Counterspell.
Yeah,
like Caleb's deck could play it.
Other decks could lose to humans because they're playing Counterspell.
Yeah, I don't think it would change things immensely, but that would be my thought, is that there's other things that could. And Teferi is going to be what Jonathan casts here. He'd found that off of Escanta. He went fetching down to 4, though, is Jonathan. But he still has that Lightning Helix.
Yeah, the Lightning Helix looks to be a bit of a saving grace here. He knows he's facing down this Grape Shot on top of Scherer's deck, and probably has sussed out that Scherer has another copy already.
Yeah, it makes sense. And Teferi, end step, going to untap some things. Goes for the Escanta and the Colonnade. And he'll Helix right now.
Sure.
Doesn't want to add to Caleb's Storm. Up to 7 is Jonathan. Caleb draws and says go. And look, that should be the turning point here.
Yeah, now Sukenik just gets to keep activating Escanta, and Scherer's also just at 9. Pretty easy to clean up. Snapcaster
Lightning Helix, and if Caleb's speaking of cleaning up, he's going to clean up his side of the board. Says, yeah, that's going to do it.
Well, it's the combination of Sukenik's going to be at too much life, and also that Scherer is just dead pretty quickly.
I guess Colonnade plus Snapcaster is dead immediately, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds right.
Fair enough. Game 1, Caleb really storms up to 15, but not 16 rather, isn't enough. And Jonathan Sukenik takes the first game.
Yeah, that was really close, but did not quite get there.
All right, so on sideboards, when we've seen Caleb play this matchup, we normally see these pieces of the puzzle be something he goes for. Assume those are in. Between Empty the Warrens and Thing in the Ice, a new addition for this weekend, do you want anything else for this matchup?
Thing in the Ice is intriguing because I would not expect Sukenik to be on Path to Exile's post-board.
Right.
This really isn't the matchup for it as much as a more creature-heavy matchup would be, but we'll see if we see that one. I am interested in whether that'll play out here. Empty the Warrens against Jeskai is a little bit dicey because they are likely to have some number of copies to the Empty, but you do have these random games where you just get to shove on Empty, and you don't even have to make that many copies for it to be lethal over a couple of turns. But yeah, mostly we are looking at these pieces of the puzzle. I don't think this is really a wipe-away matchup. Jeskai is not likely to really have a permanent that you super care about.
Okay.
Whereas that's more going to be for matchups that have things like Rest in Peace or Damping Sphere.
Right. On Jonathan's side, of course, because he's playing Jeskai, he can't have Rest in Peace, but he does have Graveyard Hate. He has 3 copies of Surgical Extraction. I wouldn't mind seeing 1 or more of them in this matchup. 3 is actually a lot to see out of a control deck.
Yeah, it is quite a bit. Got to figure that as these control decks play more copies of Field of Ruin, we saw Jim Davis go for Tron lands with Surgical Extraction earlier in the tournament.
Yeah.
There's also a fair amount of Vengevines in the field.
Yeah, so
I don't know about this field, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, certainly has moved up in the metagame in the last month. You do need some Graveyard Hate. Do you think
Ironworks combo?
It's very good there.
Yep.
Do you think all 3 come in against Storm? Storm uses the graveyard.
I would expect at most 1 to 2 copies in this matchup, just because your goal is to tag Grape Shot exactly.
Okay.
Can probably beat Empty some other ways. Once you remove Grape Shot, the job gets a lot harder for the Storm deck, and it's really the only thing you're looking for. There's probably spots where you get in some other cards, but mostly that would be why if you're bringing in it at all.
Against a deck like Storm, when you're a 4 Snapcaster Mage, 3 Surgical deck, can you start trying to just mass Surgical them, where the kind of thing where, say you hit Pyretic, you might get a board state where I hit Manamorphose and then I hit Pyretic Ritual with a Snapcaster Mage and then his deck stops working?
Their gifts on Given get quite a lot worse once you Surgical one of their rituals, because the package tends to involve just finding a bunch of rituals. So there is something to that. The pieces of the puzzle plan's a little bit more robust against that.
Yeah.
I think that the plan is still mostly going to be to find Grape Shot, but I haven't played the matchup with Surgical to the extent that I could tell you that there is a good second target for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go for rituals unless I was getting 2 of the 3 rituals in the deck.
Right.
Maybe that's a line.
I can tell you there are just some nice ones as Sukenik sideboards.
Okay,
Dispel
yeah.
is a slam dunk here. It's so good against so much what Scherer is doing, whether it be rituals or gifts on Given. Vendilion Click lets you know what's in their hand to better fight counter wars, and against weaker hands, you can kind of pick them apart. The Negate is also great, much for the same reasons that Dispel is.
Disdainful Stroke gets a little worse. It still hits Gifts and Past in Flames. Do you still want that?
1 copy is pretty safe.
Yeah. One thing I am noting on Jonathan's side, though, he does not have a way to answer Goblin tokens. There's no Engineered Explosives, or is it Staticaster here?
Yeah, there are the 2 main deck Supreme Verdicts and the Settle the Wreckage. The Settle probably not going to be the tool we lean on in this matchup, but I can see leaving in a copy of Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if he'd have to do that.
I think generally they do, yeah. You want to have some insulation against Empty. There is the risk on the Storm player's side that your Goblins will get killed, and that would make the Jeskai player think, I just don't want to try to answer that card because they're not going to risk it, but it's worth it to the Storm player to try to cheese some wins.
Jonathan keeping on 7. Caleb keeping as well. Here we go for the second game. And Caleb's going to start up. He's going to set up with some Serum Visions to start here. Last game on 6-card hands, Caleb missed a land drop early. Actually recovered reasonably from that.
I mean, he nearly had a full combo turn, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't hold him back as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
Sukenik with some really timely Lightning Helixes to capitalize on Caleb's missed combo turn. That was able to bridge him up to a Teferi, and then Teferi closed it.
little help from his Kanta the Sunken Rune as well.
Yeah, I said that found him the Teferi.
Yeah.
Same visions from Jonathan. We do see a path to exile in that top 2 of his scry, so at least some number have been kept in.
If he doesn't already have a Lightning Bolt or a Lightning Helix, there's a reasonable argument to hang on to that. But he does push them both to the bottom. Not surprising at all to see the Cryptic Command go here. That card is pretty inefficient in the matchup.
Sleight of hand here for Caleb. And another one.
Storms at 2.
Yeah.
get the counter. Get the counter.
The deck gets scary at the part where he starts casting pieces of the puzzles.
Right.
Which, with this many cantrips cast in the first 2 turns, I would expect he has one.
Yeah, he had a lot of looks to track it down, and it's one of his better, if not just the best card in the matchup. Certainly actively searching for it.
Jonathan has 2 mana ready. Could counter it. In the meantime, Caleb, no rush.
Ooh.
Plays a tap land. Jonathan does put down a Snapcaster, for no value.
Here comes the Ambush Viper. And that's just a play that you do make quite a bit in this matchup, actually. You need to apply pressure. And if you're in a situation where you're unlikely to have a spell to Snapcast back anytime soon, certainly the Serum Visions, you're not going to see Sukenik just tap 3 mana at sorcery speed for a Serum Visions.
Yeah, if Sukenik was playing more cards like Opt in his deck, we might have seen him wait until he could get a card off that Snapcaster, but he doesn't. If he wants to wait to end step it and draw a card, he's really waiting until Electrolyze is online, and that's just too many turns.
Right, and even in situations where the Jeskai player is playing Opt, sometimes you still just go for the Snapcaster if you expect that your opponent's going to start casting 3 and 4 mana spells. They're pieces of the puzzle or gifts ungiven.
So Caleb now on turn 4 decides to make a move. Here is Baral, and perhaps more. He's going to cast Pyretic Ritual off the Baral.
I see an Empty the Warrens in those holdings.
Yeah, Storm's already at 2.
If there were 2 rituals, it's very safe to just cast another ritual here, then you'll for sure be able to empty. There's a pretty strong argument for just casting the empty from here. I suppose if your Brawl stays intact, though there would be some concern about you cast a ritual if you only have 1, and Sukenik has something like, I don't know, Spell Snare, Lightning Bolt.
So let's say Sun-Bleached Empty the Warrens, in case you're wondering why that card has no color on it.
It sure looks like a proxy.
Yeah, if you leave, it's an Artist Altar, well, quotes, Artist Altar. If you leave it in the sun for about 6 months, the card will look that way.
You don't know that it's not a factory misprint.
I may or may not have sun-bleached some cards. And I can tell you I've seen this. He goes for 6 goblins and then 4 Grape Shot. 1 to the Snapcaster and 3 upstairs.
Yeah, so now we'll see if Sukenik left in any and has access to any Supreme Verdicts. He'll need them quick. You can kind of work towards this with copies of Electrolyze, or, you know.
Oh, and he checked Jonathan on the Supreme Verdict, and Jonathan had it.
Yeah.
We said he might leave them in just for that card. Now Caleb can rebuild. He does have pieces of the puzzle in his hand. And there it is. Finding. Pyretic Ritual, Desperate Ritual, Echoing Truth. So no card advantage exactly, but he'll take the 2 mana makers.
Yep, that makes a good amount of sense.
No 5th land, says go.
No 5th land is actually kind of good for Caleb, as he's picking up these rituals. Just means he has a fistful of spells. We have not seen a Past in Flames cast just yet. There is one in the holdings.
Yeah, see how Caleb uses that. Pyretic Ritual is the start for this turn. You know, at this point, Jonathan's probably good for a counter spell. And he'll just empty, making 4 goblins.
Yeah, let's see you verdict me twice.
It's interesting just how much pressure 4 1/1s can make.
Yeah, from 14.
Yeah.
Now, against just 4 goblins, it's a lot easier for Sukenik to have something like Electrise, or how about one spell that just makes 4 creatures and just secure the waste?
What? John has him with the answer there on a 1-of. So both players now with 4 1/1s. Sukenik will be very happy to trade them away.
Looks like we're using Vigilant tokens here. I don't believe
No.
Secure the Waste makes Vigilant creatures.
We do not. It does not. Those are not the correct. No, that text isn't there. We're fine.
Just making sure everyone's on the same page. If they had Vigilance, it would be kind of comical.
He'd probably attack with them here if they had vigilance.
Right.
Surgical Extraction from Jonathan. And I'm wondering if he's got a Snapcaster Mage, because there's both a Grape Shot and an Empty in the graveyard. We'll see what he's targeting. It was Grape Shot. All right, so Ryan, if he has a Snapcaster Mage, this is... Are we done?
Sukenik's going to check on that, make sure that that's the situation. I didn't see any Lightning Bolts as he was fanning out the deck here.
So you're like on Baral beatdown at that point?
Yeah, Baral's probably not going to cross the finish line.
There were 2 Thing in the Ice in there.
Okay, yeah, it looks like transform cards there.
Yeah.
You can really just sit on the Snapcaster Mage, and if Caleb just casts that ritual, then you Surgical the Empty. Because the Empty, just Caleb casts it and makes 2 goblins is not a very threatening mode.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a Snapcaster Mage. So Caleb will lose all the Storm cards. Jonathan really has had him at every turn here. There's the first empty, he had the verdict.
He's got the beatdowns, too.
Okay. I guess you can Snapcaster that Secure the Wastes.
Yeah.
Why not? Plays a Colonnade, says go. See if in draw step he wants to Surgical the empty. He does not.
Yeah, again, I don't think he's concerned at all about Caleb just making 2 goblins.
Here's Manamorphose. Okay. Now this represents 4 goblins.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the Snapcaster here. I think that this window makes a good amount of sense. 4 goblins is twice as many as 2.
And now he will make the play. Surgical Extraction again. And Caleb's just going to pick up the cards. He does have 2 Thing in the Ice, but he said he's not going to try to draw to those.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be a lot of work. One of the spells